Hello, welcome back to another video. So today's video I'm just gonna do a like fitness Q&A sort of thing, because by the way, if I'm talking weird, it's because I've got a new aligner in and it's like very tight, so I'm a little bit like lispy. Yeah, I've not done one of these videos where I basically just sit down, well in this case stand up, and answer some of your guys' fitness dilemmas, fitness questions. I've not actually done a video like this since, I want to say since I was at uni, because I always do Q&As on my Instagram. I kind of like forget that actually doing it like long form content on YouTube is very helpful, because I can give you a way more in-depth answer. I'm gonna pick some now. There were lots and lots of questions, like I had over 70, so if I've not answered your question, I am sorry, but I'm gonna try and pick the ones that are very like they've been asked in a different way multiple times, so that I'm answering as many people's queries as possible. But yeah, by the way, if you're not following me on Instagram, my Instagram is just amyrookes, and I definitely recommend following me on there because I do a lot of Q&As on there, and when I do questions for videos like this, I will always put it to Instagram to get the questions there. So definitely recommend following me on there if you're not already. First question: really struggling with feeling confident about how my glutes look. I have hip dips and I know they aren't really bad, it's a load of shite, true that, but it's really hard to actually apply that to how I feel, question mark. I completely understand, because you know, it's no secret here, I've had my boobs done, I've had my nose done, so I've been that person who has an insecurity, and it didn't matter how many times someone said to me, there's nothing wrong with your nose, there's nothing wrong with your boobs. It didn't change how I felt about myself. With things like this, there's nothing really that anyone else can say to you that is going to change how you feel about it. Having said that, I'm going to give it a good go. So hip dips, these are something which have only very recently, in recent years, become an issue or a problem area through social media. Now, my personal hypothesis of why they've become an issue is because of the trend of BBLs, which has been spearheaded by the Kardashians. Now, I actually like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I really like Kim. I like Skims. I think they're an entertaining family. However, they have popularized this new beauty ideal, this new beauty standard, which is basically very unnatural in most cases, very exaggerated proportions. So like, we're talking, oh, if the lighting's going funny, it's because the sun's just come out, and Dan's got like a massive window basically behind where the camera is, and no blinds, so we're just gonna have to roll with it. Yeah, so they have kind of popularized very exaggerated body proportions, and that for the past few years, especially with the rise of Instagram, the Instagram baddie aesthetic, that's become like the beauty standard, the new beauty standard now. But this rise in like the super round hips, the super tiny waist, the crazy proportions has kind of almost like demonized anyone not having perfectly round hips. Now, I go to the gym very frequently, and I can confidently say, I also train women, I've trained hundreds of women, and I can confidently say most women have got visible hip dips. Not all, but most. And the reason I say visible is because everyone has a dip in their hips, like skeletally. Most people will have a dip there. Now, what's going to impact whether they're visible or not is things like body fat percentage, where you store that body fat, muscles, your anatomy, all that sort of stuff, because every single person is unique. And whenever I say you can't really get rid of hip dips, people come at me with anecdotal evidence. Now, I am getting really sick of this, because every single time I say the appearance of your hip dips depends on your genetics. And then people say, oh well, I trained XYZ, or I lost weight, or I gained weight and they disappeared. That is because, let's say for example, you gained weight and your hip dips disappeared. You are genetically predisposed to gain fat in that area to minimize the appearance of the hip dip. Not everyone has that. And then because like they've been kind of demonized, you've got hip dip reduction workouts, do this to get rid of your hip dips. Now, they're just a huge issue, because yes, some people depending on genetics, will be able to reduce the appearance of their hip dips. No one is getting rid of a skeletal feature. Like, it's not happening. Well, the vast majority of women, I'm pretty confident in saying this, in order to get rid of your hip dips and like fully mask the appearance, you would have to get a BBL. Now a BBL, a Brazilian butt lift, is where they take fat from one area of your body and they inject it basically into your butt. They're basically playing around with the positioning of your body fat and where it is. If you want to go for that, I'm not going to judge anyone. I've had 2 surgeries. I'm in no position to judge. However, it's one of the most dangerous cosmetic procedures that people can have done. I feel like plastic surgery in general can follow a trend. Certain things will be trendy, like for example, massive implants used to be trendy, and now the trend is, if you are going to get them a bit more conservative, to get them a bit smaller. That is the trend. I'm not saying that's what people should do, I'm just saying that is the trend. Trends change, body trends change. Wild that literally like a body trend can change. I think that's bizarre. But my concern is the people that are getting BBLs now. Some people might get it because they genuinely love that look and they really want it, but I do worry that some people who do go in for a BBL are doing it because it's trendy, and so they think that they need to have that done to fit the standard now. But what are they going to do in 5-10 years when it wasn't really what they actually wanted and the trend has changed and now hip dips are in? Because I am telling you now, there is going to come a time where hip dips will be in, because there is nothing inherently ugly or, you know, wrong with them. They are just a feature of bodies, and they are so common. Like I said, 95% of women that I have seen in the gym, that I see walking around, that I train, have got hip dips. They are completely normal. And the final point on this is that, because this is like a fitness Q&A, a lot of well-trained women, very muscular women, women who have built a significant amount of muscle in their glutes, women who have larger glute mediuses, which is their like upper side booty, they have more visible hip dips the more muscle they put on, you know. And it really pains me to think that people would avoid getting stronger, avoid building muscle if that's their goal, avoid pushing themselves, avoid seeing what their bodies are truly capable of, because they're concerned it's going to make, you know, the hip dip a bit more visible. Like for example, if you look at someone like Tammy Hembrow, now I know that people think she's had like a BBL and stuff like that. I personally don't. And if you look at her from behind, you look at some of the hauls that she's done, she's got hip dips, and that girl trains her ass. Like, she's got a huge bum, she's got very well developed glutes, very well developed legs, and she has got hip dips. So I personally don't think that there's anything wrong with them. And everything that I've just said is probably not going to make any difference to how you feel, but that's just me trying to put it in more of a context scenario, because sometimes just saying there's nothing wrong with them, I know that's not helpful, but sometimes giving a bit more context around why there's nothing wrong with them, why it's even like a trend to want to get rid of them at the moment, can be helpful. So I hope that's helped. And I would also recommend that with your social media, you follow people who, you know, if you do find that you struggle comparing yourself to other people, you follow people who have a similar body type to you, or like a similar frame, but then they've, you know, worked in it, or something that you're aiming for. But don't ever aim to have the look of a BBL if you don't intend on having a BBL, because you're not going to get that from working out. It's not natural. And also, a lot of people on social media edit their pictures. It's not just your big influencers now, it's not just magazines, it's not just big celebrities, it is your everyday Tom, Dick and Harry editing their pictures, changing their body shape. So take everything with a pinch of salt and follow people who don't exasperate your insecurities, basically. My boobs can grow with exercise and eating. Now, yes, if you go into like a calorie surplus to cover the eating side of things first, and you are, you know, predisposed to gain weight in the boob area, and gain a bit more like fatty tissue in that area, then yeah, eating a bit more is probably going to increase the size of your boobs. For me personally, that never worked. I bulked before I had my boobs done. They never grew, it never worked. But yeah, because for some people when they lose weight, they lose size on their chest. For some people when they gain weight, they gain that size back. So yes, eating can do that, but it's not guaranteed. You don't really get to choose where your body gains weight, where all that extra energy goes if you are eating a bit more. So take that with a pinch of salt. As for with exercise, I'm going to assume you mean training chest now. That doesn't really work the same way as your glutes do, because with your boobs, it's actual breast tissue, like it's a different kind of tissue. Your boob, like if someone's got a big boob, which as it sounds, not implant, like a naturally big boob, that's not made up of muscle, because your pecs are what sits underneath and then you've got your breast tissue over that. The reason why I know quite a bit about the anatomy of the boobs is because when I had mine done, I had to go under the muscle because I did not have enough breast tissue to go over the muscle. So you've got your muscle there, breast tissue here, and some people can get implants there, which is basically over the muscle. But if you don't have enough breast tissue, you can't do that and you have to go under. That's what I had to do. So your muscle and your breast tissue are two very different things. You can grow your pec muscles, but it's not going to make your boobs bigger. It's not how your breast tissue works. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. That wasn't really a very frequently asked one, but I did think it was an interesting one to ask. Someone has said, is it really bad to always use a barbell pad when squatting? The bar is too painful without it. You do not need to be squatting with a barbell pad. It actually can really mess up the smoothness of the movement. To me, it makes the movement a lot harder, and that comes from someone who used to do it. Now, when you take away that pad, it takes a bit of getting used to be doing it without the pad, because the pad does really impact how the squat feels, because they're quite thick, and obviously that bar's not sitting flat to your body and all that sort of stuff, so it does feel weird when you get rid of it and it can be a bit painful. However, it shouldn't be super painful if you are resting it in the right position on your back, and also if you are just taking the barbell pad off and you've just started doing that. I strongly recommend, if you are just taking away that pad to start with, that you wear things like hoodies, crop jumpers, t-shirts and stuff, just so that you can get used to having the bar on your back without the pad, but still with a bit of protection between your skin and the bar if you are finding it uncomfortable. But yeah, I really don't recommend squatting with the barbell pad, and I would strongly recommend that you ease yourself into doing it without it by using things like t-shirts, hoodies, crop jumpers, all that sort of stuff. Someone has said, and I've had quite a lot of questions with this Q&A about how do I know how long I need to bulk for, how long do I bulk for, how long should I bulk for, and the answer to that is how long is a piece of string, but there are going to be like minimums to it. When you look at everything that the literature points towards on growing muscle, all that sort of stuff, women can on average gain up to a pound of muscle a month, and that's really good, that's amazing. However, if you are then thinking of doing a 4-week bulk, even an 8-week bulk, it's not really long enough to see a significant increase in muscle mass. It's going to depend on how many times you can train a week, because it might take you a bit longer if you're training less times in a week to see more results. It's going to depend on, you know, how much of a surplus you are doing. If you are doing a slower surplus where you just slowly increase your calories, obviously that's going to take you a bit longer to work your way up into a surplus, but then technically I suppose for part of that time you're not even in the bulk. So, and also how much muscle are you looking to gain? If you are looking to have like a complete body transformation, you want to put on a lot of muscle, for me personally, I would say you need to be dedicating 6 months to a bulk would be like ideal. That's what I like to do. It's what I like to do with clients unless they specify otherwise. And for me personally, I'm not like genetically someone who grows muscle easily, so I need a longer gaining phase. Some people gain muscle really quickly, a lot easier, and they can see significant progress in a much shorter period of time. So it's going to also depend on your genetics. I would say absolute minimum 3 months. Me personally, I will end a bulk after around 6 months. Some people like to end a bulk when they get uncomfortable. Now, take that with a pinch of salt, because I would always recommend stopping a bulk or stopping doing anything when you are getting really uncomfortable with it. However, if you are someone who's super scared of gaining weight, that could mean that you are stopping a bulk after gaining like a pound, and that's not long enough for a significant bulk. So you need to find the balance of giving it long enough to see a difference, and also learning to push through the uncomfortable periods as much as you can. And the other option is, for when you would want to end a bulk, is if you are looking to cut afterwards, which you don't have to. There's this notion that as soon as you've done a bulk you need to cut afterwards. Some people actually just bulk to gain weight and they are happier at that higher weight and they will just maintain from there, and that's fine. But if you are looking to do a cut afterwards and you have a specific date in mind or a time when you want to be leaner, you would consider how much weight you've put on, how much weight you're looking to lose, what your body fat percentage is looking like, and how much you would want to be bringing that down by. Then look at the date that you're aiming for and see how long it's going to take you to have like a successful dieting phase. Now, if you don't have much to lose, you could honestly do that in about 8 weeks. So let's say it's in May, you've got a holiday at the start of July, you're coming up to the end of your bulk, you've then got 8 weeks to trim down for your holiday. Should you wish to do that, you don't have to. But the main takeaway from that is growing muscle takes time. It's not going to be a matter of weeks. There is no point, this sounds really savage, but for most women there is no point committing to a bulk for 4 weeks. It's not long enough, and when you go into a cut after a 4-week bulk, I can pretty much confidently say you will look pretty much the same as you did before, and it's just a bit of a waste of time. If you're going into a bulk, you need to commit to it. You can't keep hopping in and out of a bulk and a calorie deficit every single time you get a bit uncomfortable. You kind of need to push through if you want to commit to a bulk. So next question is tips for other people judging you for wanting to be healthy and fit. Gonna keep this one short and sweet. If someone is judging you for a certain thing that you're doing and it's not harming you, it's not harming anyone else, you know, let's say you are going about it in a very healthy manner, you're not teetering on like disordered behavior, all that sort of stuff, you're going about it in a very healthy, balanced manner, there is no reason for anyone to be judging you for that. And if people are, you just need to know that that is coming from something within them. It's not about you, as with 99% of things that people say about other people, and that's coming from someone who, let's be honest, we have all said things that we probably wish we hadn't said about other people within our lifetimes. No one's perfect, but when you reflect on the times that you've judged someone for a lifestyle choice or a particular behavior, you know, considering if it's not harmful, it's not hurting anyone, the chances are that's because it's mirroring an insecurity within you or something that you kind of wish that you could do. So for example, if someone is judging you for wanting to be healthy and fit, that might be an internal issue that's going on with them, because they might want to start that journey, but you know, they don't know how to get started. And so instead of, you know, getting their asses into gear, seeking some help, doing some research, all that sort of stuff, they instead will try to discourage those around them from doing things that they would really love to do, because some people are just like that. If they can't do it, they don't want anyone else to be able to do it. So take it with a pinch of salt and just know it's not about you, it's more than likely about them. Someone else has asked, and I'm not going to answer this really, but I am going to touch on something about the question, which is how to prevent or manage knee pain when doing squats, lunges, etc. If you are having pain in your joints, in your body, you need to seek help or advice or assistance from someone who is qualified to help you with that. A personal trainer, I'm a qualified personal trainer, is not qualified to help you with that. I will never comment on things to do with joint injuries, joint pain, because I might know a little bit from my own experience, from obviously my partner is an osteopath. I might know a bit about things from that, from issues that I've had with myself, but it's not on me to share my experience to try and help someone else with ultimately what could be an injury, an underlying issue that I am just not qualified to comment on. And I see this a lot with people asking PTs for like medical advice or questions that really you should be asking a chiro, a physio, a doctor, an osteopath. So I'm not going to comment on things like joint pain, knee pain, any of that sort of stuff. I do get knee pain. I've got like a dodgy right knee and I see an osteopath for help with that. And yeah, I will never comment on someone's injuries or pains and all that sort of stuff unless it's like a form issue. The only thing I can think of that could be causing knee pain from like a form point of view is if when you're doing things like lunges, for example, your knee is kind of like caving inwards. You always want to make sure that your knee can come over your toe. By the way, when you're doing a lunge or a squat, it can come over your toe. That's not an issue. Your knee can come over your toe, but you want to make sure that your knee stays in line with your foot, so it's not wobbling side to side. That could be causing some issues, but other than that, that is as far as I will comment on that in terms of like preventing and making sure that you've got the right form when you're doing things like lunges. A lot of questions on how to build a shelf, how to build that upper glute area. Now, how this looks on you is going to be impacted by your genetics. Everything that you do progress wise, whether it's good or bad, any of your weak points, any of your stronger points, is your genetics. I know that people like to blame genetics for their weak points but not thank their genetics for their stronger points, and that's just not fair because genetics will impact everything. So just want to preface my answer with that. Everyone's bodies are going to look different. Some people will find it a lot harder to grow that upper glute region. Glutes are all different shapes and sizes. Just want to preface this with that. However, the exercises that are going to target that area are things when you are where you are using your glute medius, which sits, if we're going to think about hip dips, sits above where the hip dip area is. It's like the upper side. So when I say side, I don't mean it's on the side of your hip and you can build it to fill out your hip dips. It's kind of above, so it's like your upper side booty. Developing this can impact how that upper portion, that shelf portion of your glutes looks. You would work that through things like step-ups, so dumbbell, box step-ups, glute focused. You want to be doing those glute focused if you are looking to target your glutes. Your glute medius does work in those. It also works in things like glute medius kickbacks. And also for the shelf kind of appearance, you want to make sure that you are doing movements in your training that biases that upper portion of your glute max, which is things like your rounded back extensions, hip thrusts, bridges. Anything that works your glutes in a shortened position is highly likely to be targeting and biasing more of your upper glute max fibers than your lower. They will work both, but it will just be more of your upper glute max fibers involved. How to come out of a deficit and go into a bulk, or can you build at maintenance? You can build at maintenance. You can also build in a deficit. It's just a lot harder, and you can obviously build in a surplus. I know that some people like to slowly creep calories up. The only reason why I would do that for myself or with a client is if someone is anxious about increasing calories, or they already struggle to hit their calorie intakes. If you add like 500 calories, you know, to take them from a deficit to a surplus, they're going to struggle with that. They're going to struggle to adhere to it. It's going to really cause them to like completely dip out motivation wise, and they're just going to feel like they're failing. So it's never a good idea if someone is already struggling or they don't have much of an appetite. You'd always gradually increase. However, you can literally just go from a deficit into a surplus. There is nothing stopping you. All that gradually increasing or decreasing your calories from a surplus to a bulk, or bulk from a surplus to a bulk, from a deficit to a surplus, or a surplus to a deficit, all you're really doing is kind of prolonging how long it's going to take you to reach the point of being in a deficit or the point of being in a surplus. So yeah, you can just add calories. I can't tell you how many calories it's going to be because it's going to depend on a multitude of factors, and I can't really advise you on that without knowing more about you as a person, your training, all that sort of stuff. But you can do it gradually. Equally, you can go straight into it. There's nothing stopping you. It's just going to come down to personal preference and what you are going to be more comfortable with. Someone has said how to plan workouts. I will probably do a whole video on this, but to summarize it very shortly, you always want to put your main compounds, or even if it's not necessarily a compound lift but a lift you're really trying to progress on and you are really trying to put all your energy into that, you'd want to put those first. So they would go first in your session. So typically the moves that you want to progress on, or the compound lifts, aka the ones that are going to take the most energy from you, you'd put those first, because the further along in your session you get, the less energy you're going to have, the more you're going to struggle. So with things like compounds, they will be a lot harder to progress on, and if you have a specific movement that you are really trying to push through a plateau on or hit a PB on, it's going to be very hard to do that at the end of a session after you've done, you know, 4 or 5 other exercises. You would then put in your accessory isolation work, and you would be looking at having, like, it's really hard to say because it's going to depend on how many times you train in a week, how much volume is in each session, to make sure that you're getting the right amount of volume a week. If you're training less times in a week, you can get away with more volume in a session. If you're hitting a muscle group more times in a week, the volume needs to be a little bit lower. So let's say you are training lower body 2 to 3 times a week. 4 to 6 exercises within a session is going to be just fine. I would say to pick 1 to 2 compound lifts per session, then move on to some accessory and isolation work. And yeah, but I will do a whole video on that because I feel like there's a lot of different scenarios, and I could probably do a good, like, whiteboard video. I kind of want to buy a whiteboard, not gonna lie. Let me know if you would like whiteboard videos where I, like, take you through things more in depth. Obviously I'm doing these questions a little bit more in depth than I would maybe on my Instagram stories, but it's still not, I can't spend, you know, 20 minutes answering one question. But some of these questions could be dragged out to a 20-minute long video if I wanted to do it super in depth. So let me know if there's any questions that have come up in this video that you want a more in-depth video on, and I'll definitely do that. To navigate all the TikTok fitness advice you see online, TikTok fitness advice, TikTok fitness space has literally, like, exploded. There are so many creators on the app, so many trainers, so many great educational people, and there's also, with that, you're going to get, the more people you've got, the more clashing of opinions you are going to get. So the best advice I can give really is take everything with a pinch of salt and don't rely on just one person to get all your information from. I know it's really easy to do that because it makes your life so much easier, but, you know, if someone says something that you think, oh, I didn't know that, or I'm not sure of that, or there's conflicting opinions on that, you can go ahead, you can go through Google, you can go through YouTube and find different opinions. Do your own research, be your own scientist. That's kind of the best advice I can give on that. There is a lot of advice on the app, there's a lot of clashing opinions, but even people like, for example, JPG Coaching, he encourages his following to not see him as some kind of, like, know-all, be-all god of fitness. He encourages people to question him on what he's saying, to go and do their own research based off what he's saying. He's not encouraging people to just blindly follow everything he's saying, and I really do respect that about him. We all fall into the trap of just following one person and everything that they say is Bible, but the more diverse range of opinions you're getting, yes, the more complicated it gets, but the way more enriched your knowledge can be, because you should always apply critical thinking to what you're seeing, what you're reading, what you're hearing. No one knows everything. Even the people that you might look at, even the people that do, you know, super jazzy courses, they will tell you they do not know everything, and the stuff that they are teaching now, more research could come to light and they could have to correct the things that they're doing. But as long as someone is being very open and honest about the fact that you know, research changes all the time, new research comes out, all that sort of stuff. I don't think you have too much to worry about. Another question, I'm really sorry for how up and down this lighting is in this video. I know that I've just come like so tanned, and a minute ago I was like ghostly pale. Really sorry about the lighting. Someone has said, how do you know if you're overtraining? Recovery is going to give you, your recovery in progress is going to give you a pretty good idea of if you're overtraining. If you are overtraining, you will probably find that you are not progressing on movements, you're hitting a lot of plateaus, and recovery wise you will not be recovering from your sessions as well as you should be. You'll be finding that you're way too sore, you're not getting the most out of your sessions. Another question, I can't decide if I want to lean out or gain muscle. Can you do both at the same time? You can do both at the same time. It's very possible to do both at the same time. The longer you've been training, the harder this will get. So, you know, if you are an advanced lifter, you've been training and training properly for, you know, years and years, you're super advanced, that's going to be a lot harder for you to lean out and gain muscle at the same time. If you're a bit newer, you're going to find it a lot easier. Also, your body fat starting point, if you have more fat to lose, it's going to be a lot easier for you to build muscle whilst losing that fat. So your starting body composition will impact that as well, compared to someone who is already like fairly lean to begin with and is going into a deficit to try and build more muscle. They're going to struggle a bit more. I'm going to do one more question. What are the key exercises to grow your glutes as a beginner? Because I've had this question like worded multiple different ways, or just people asking me, you know, what are the best exercises for your glutes, or even what are the best exercises for any muscle group. So I'm going to preface this with saying there is no one best exercise, because when you're looking for a best exercise, you need to take into consideration obviously the usefulness of the movement. Is it actually going to target the muscle that you are wanting to target? Is it going to bias it? Then you need to consider what the person who's training enjoys, which is something that people love to skip over. If someone does not enjoy doing a certain movement, so for example, someone does not enjoy doing rounded back extensions, they are a great glute movement, but if someone does not enjoy them, there's no point in putting them in the program, because I can guarantee after a couple of weeks they'll just start skipping it out for another movement, or not doing a movement to replace it full stop and just skipping it. You need to make sure that the exercises you're doing are ones that you enjoy. And then third of all is going to be you as an individual. Some exercises work better for some people than others. Obviously there are guidelines that we can follow with this. You know, no one is a unicorn. No one is going to be finding that they grow their glutes massively through doing dumbbell lateral raises. Like, there is an element of logic and science behind everything. But if you are a beginner, first of all, you just need to be focusing on getting the movement patterns right. So doing things body weight only, doing things like hip thrust, a glute bridge, a lunge, leg press, because machine work is often a lot easier to get to terms with than things like free weight, you know, barbell squats. For example, a leg press would be a good place to start if you are intimidated by doing a back squat, which a lot of beginners are. Kickbacks, cable work, all that sort of stuff. You would want to start off practicing those movement patterns. Obviously leg press is a bit different because it is a machine and you would just do it on like the lowest weight option. Body weight only, or with a very, very light weight until you've perfected your form. And then from there, you can try out different variations. You can start adding weight, start progressing on the movements. But there's no point in throwing a beginner in at the deep end with a really, really complex movement that they're not going to be comfortable with. So you need to make sure, if you are a beginner, that you are picking movements you are comfortable trying and you are nailing your form down first of all. Now, my favourite glute exercises would probably be, I love a hip thrust, I love a calves glute bridge. I really, really love a leg press, either a single leg press or my feet kind of higher on the pad and like not super narrow, but like a little bit more narrow, kind of like shoulder width apart. I really like that for my glutes. what else do I really love? I love a glute medius kickback, and I really like step ups at the moment. They're probably like my favorite glute exercise at the moment. They're ones that I enjoy, they're ones that I find work well for me, and they're ones that I enjoy progressing on, and so therefore, and they work the glutes, so therefore they are, for me, the best glute exercises. So yeah, that was my little Q&A. I've said little, but I feel like this video might actually be quite long. If you want to see me do more of these, let me know. Let me know what other kind of videos you want to see me do. You know, if there's any questions, like I said, that I've gone over in this video, and you think, actually, I'd love a bit more information on that, just drop me a comment below. Let me know what kind of content you want more in-depth information on, and I can do like whiteboard videos, or I can try and do something with my iPad so that I've got like, I can write and draw and fully like explain things. Yeah, let me know what kind of videos you want to be seeing. But yeah, thank you for watching. I've really enjoyed doing this video. It's nice sometimes to just stand and answer some questions, but like not vapid questions, like actual like questions with substance that I know are going to help people, because that's kind of why I started doing what I do, to help people. But yeah, give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to and you haven't already, and yeah, I'm gonna go because I need to go to the gym. I'm so like dehydrated. It's a bit of a joke, not gonna lie. My lips are like really chapped, and I need to put my aligners back in, but they're so painful right now. They're so like tight in my mouth. But yeah,